All right, second week in a row, we have a guest here. Last week, we talked to Brian Zillum about the Mavs and bringing in Adam Berger to talk about maybe the best team in basketball history. I don't know. The Boston Celtics. Jesus Christ, what's going on with this team? They're so good. The Celtics are playing the Warriors on Saturday, the first ESPN or ABC Saturday night game of the year. And of course, it is a rematch of the finals. Adam, your team's doing a little bit better than our team. What's gotten into these guys? Man, they're on fire.
Yeah, it's incredible. It obviously all starts with Jason Tatum. He's taken his game up another level this year. He's averaging two more free throws a game than he did last season. And it seems like he's really motivated by that finals defeat, really lit a fire under both him and Jaylen Brown. And I've noticed that both of them going to the hoop really strong this year, finishing through contact. Even they've both improved consistently throughout their careers year to year. But yeah, it's at another level this year. And then that's facilitated some incredible three-point shooting from the rest of the team.
You know what I see when I've watched? I haven't watched a ton of Celtics. I've watched maybe like 3 or 4 games. And earlier today, I just went back to the Toronto game because I saw the end score and I was like, oh, maybe this was a close game. But there were parts of this game where Celtics are up by like 13 and such. So what's amazing to me is when I watch Tatum play, it's almost like a video game in that Tatum gets to his spot, and then you click on the controller which of the 4 things you want him to do, and then he just does one of them and he scores. It's like a routine almost, to the point which says that he really, really worked on his game and continues to work on his game. But he has just taken his game to another level. And at such a young age, he has put himself into that upper echelon of players this year. And, you know, we all listen to Bill Simmons, so we've been hearing about Tatum since he got drafted. So we know way more about Jason Tatum than non-Celtics fans should ever know. But wow, what a year. And I watch him and I wonder, like, if he's already this good, like, what's the ceiling for him? Like, what do Celtics fans think? Where do they think he can actually go?
Well, I mean, right now, if you're looking at like an All-NBA team, he's first team All-NBA and arguably the MVP. He's definitely on the short list for that. So definitely an MVP level player, first team All-NBA. Hard to get much better than that, but it's possible. Maybe someday he could be definitively the best player in the league, but a lot of stiff competition for that. But yeah, I mean, it's just what he's able to do is absolutely incredible. He does a couple things every game where even as a Celtics fan, I'm just like, that's just not fair trying to guard that.
Bri, where do you put Tatum on your list? Because we were talking a lot about Luka last week with Brian, and you know, Luka came into the league as somebody who people thought would be really great, and so I feel like he gets a little bit more of a high priority with hardcore NBA fans just because of what the expectation was. But you know, when it comes to Giannis, when it comes to LeBron, when it comes to Luka, like, where's Tatum on your list of the elite?
So we did like a top 25 draft with my podcast earlier in the year, and we have a buddy who's a Celtics fan on there, so we just don't want to totally, give him his roses. So I think we had Tatum like 7th behind like Kawhi and like KD and those guys. And I mean, if you look back and do that list right now, he's top 3 in the league right now. You know, you've said arguably the MVP. I don't know if this is a hot take because I'm not necessarily taking him over Luka, but I think there will come a point in time where you look at Tatum and you look at him as a wing and a guy who could score from the perimeter like a guard does, getting to the point where he could dribble like a guard does, finish at the rim like a wing or a big. Like, he could, like you said, he could do it all. Like, he has these 4 options when he gets to the hoop on your controller, and yeah, he could do one of them, but he's capable of all 4 of them. So I think there's going to be a point in time where we look at Tatum as the best player in the league, and I can't say it's right now because I mean he hasn't just won the championship yet, but there's going to be a point in time where that happens, and I think one of the big issues in the finals that I noticed, at least from my end, is that it seemed like he wasn't able to finish through contact, or I just wasn't as confident in it. And, when you're going up for a layup and you hear footsteps behind you, get a little scared. I felt like that was kind of Tatum in the finals. And I mean, he came out the gates. I've watched only a couple Celtics games, but I remember the first one of the season. It was the first game against the Sixers. I think it was the Sixers. And he was just like showing off, like, with what I worked on in the offseason. I'm just going to take it to the hoop and finish through contact, and you guys can't do anything about it. So, I mean, like you said, how young is he? Is he 24? That was kind of the meme when he was like a rookie. He's like, this kid's still 18 or 19. He can still do that right now, where he's 24 and he's still continuing to add to his game, a game that's already top 5. So
when it comes to and this is the thing that I really liked about the Celtics in the offseason, and it scared me at the same time, which is one of the fascinating things about the NBA is when you're trying to put these teams together, as we've seen, it's so star dominant. You want to pair up stars, and you want to try and sort of zig maybe where some of the teams are zagging. And the Celtics went into the offseason and go, okay, we lost the finals. Now, how do we continue to build our team to where we better match up against the Warriors? You bring in Malcolm Brogdon, because Derek White, when I think he had like one really good game in the finals, and then the Warriors just exposed him for the rest of the finals. And so you go, okay, where do we need to catch up to him? So you bring in Malcolm Brogdon. Jason Tatum takes it to the next level. And like, I'm looking at Sunday, and Brian and I were talking about this. There's no Andrew Wiggins. Saturday. There's no Andrew Wiggins playing on Saturday. Who is going to guard Jason Tatum? Like, Brian's a big Jonathan Kuminga guy. And it's like, yeah, great. Like, let's throw Kuminga on Tatum, but Kuminga's going to foul out in 20 minutes. Draymond is going to, this is the game of the week where you just go, hey, Draymond, you just play your hard 38 and we'll give you the next couple days off. But like, the Warriors don't have an answer for him at this moment. And not saying Wiggins was the answer, but Wiggins played him very well in the finals. And I just like the fact and dislike it as a Warriors fan that you guys looked at last year's finals and said, okay, now how do we match up better to beat that team? And some of it is also Milwaukee, right? You guys are also competing against Milwaukee in that East, the two best teams in the NBA right now. But what did you think about the offseason and the way that they attacked it? Obviously, you had the coaching situation, which was, so much drama. But from the pieces, Blake Griffin started against Toronto and got up for like a dunk. Like, it wasn't old Blake, but it was like, oh, Blake, you can still kind of get up there. Nice job.
Yeah, the offseason was fascinating. So Brogdon is perfect. He's exactly what they needed, and that because they really needed another ball handler to run the offense, especially when either Brown or Tatum were sitting. And Smart's good. Smart's a great passer, but they needed someone else who could score and also spread the floor, shoot from outside, which Brogdon's been incredible this year. He's shooting like over 45%. From 3 on like 4 attempts a game. Like, the whole team's actually, the Celtics have like 5 guys shooting over 45% from 3, and none of them are Tatum and Brown. That's just other guys that are shooting, and also on like 4 attempts a game. Derek White, who struggled, he's shooting over 40% from 3 this year. A lot different than his 3-point shooting in the playoffs. So
every shooting percentage metric, you guys are head and shoulders above the rest of the NBA.
It's crazy. Yeah, I think the whole team is like shooting 40% from 3, like on average. It's just it's nuts. But yeah, Brogdon's perfect. He only plays like half the game. And he actually did an interview, which was interesting, where he's like, I have the skills to be like, one of the best players on a good team and run the offense, but my body just hasn't been able to hold up to those demands. So he's perfect in that 6-man role. They don't demand too much from him. One thing I was really worried about coming into the season was, Robert Williams being out for the first few months, and Al Horford being, he's getting up there in age. They just extended him for a couple more years at the mid-level exception. So it's nice to have him around. longer, but you're worried about, demanding too much from a guy who's in the twilight of his career.
Yeah.
And so he's still very good. But what they've done, they brought back Luke Cornett from last year. So he was on the team last year. He was part of like their garbage time bench mob. When they did the Derek White trade last year, they traded so many small contracts that they just brought in like a bunch of random dudes to like fill out the roster. Cornette was one of them. And this year he's actually playing like he's their backup center. He plays, 10, 15 minutes a game to kind of, give Horford a rest. And then Al Horford this year, though, he hasn't been playing in any back-to-backs. So they keep him out. And then what they've done, though, which is very creative, is when Al Horford is out, like on a back-to-back, they bring in Blake Griffin, and Blake Griffin just splits. He does his best Al Horford impression. He's kind of like a poor man's Al Horford, but he's done well. So he doesn't play a lot of games, but when he does play, he's playing like 15, 20. He played 30 minutes in that Raptors game, I think. So it's worked out really well. And then another underrated. It wasn't really an addition. One of those bench mob guys from last year who was on a two-way undrafted player named Sam Hauser.
Yes.
He's playing about 15 minutes a game this year as their backup small forward. He's shooting over 45% from three. He's just an incredible shooter. And he's also 6'7", and, he's not the fastest guy. I would hesitate to call him a plus defender, but he's also not a negative defender. Like he's not bad. He holds up pretty well, especially within their team concept for defense. So, and also they were supposed to have Danilo Gallinari on this team as well, but they signed him and then he tore his ACL the next week.
Yeah, that was
which
tough.
was unfortunate. But the offseason moves they totally killed it from a player standpoint, and obviously the team's just firing on all cylinders right now.
The one thing about Robert Williams is bringing him back is like injecting steroids into the team. The only negative thing, and we saw this with Clay last year, is the team was so accustomed to playing a specific way that when they brought Clay back, and you got to put Clay in starting lineup, like he deserves all of that. It was different than having Jordan Poole in there as far as the offense would go. Jordan Poole is a jitterbug, and he's going to the hole, and Clay's searching for open jumpers. So there was a lot of adjustment that the Warriors had to have, and they didn't really get there because of all the injuries that they had until the playoffs, and then they sort of figured it out in the playoffs. You guys will have a couple more months to get him back and to figure out that rotation. So that's a killer for other teams to have him.
I think with Clay, integrating Clay back into the offense, like Clay kind of needs his shots and he needs the ball, like whereas Robert Williams is kind of just he doesn't need it.
Yeah,
he'll take a lob here and there. So
yeah, I mean ultimately the thing with him is just the health. He just needs to stay healthy, and
totally.
He doesn't need the ball. He blocks shots, grabs rebounds. It's a perfect guy to just fit right back in to make that team even more scary.
Yeah, I am curious about how they handle that. So, like, I can see this going one of two ways. So one way is Robert Williams comes back and he's just taking all the Luke Cornett minutes, and maybe Al's just playing a little bit less, so they even them out a bit. So, I mean, that would probably be the most seamless way to bring him back. So, but last year, obviously, their defense was so incredible when they played Robert Williams and Al Horford together in the starting lineup. So this year, their defense is kind of middle of the road. It's been between like 10th and 15th, depending on what metrics you're looking at. So more mediocre. Obviously, their offense is incredible, in large part because of all the spacing that they have. Udoka he seemed to like bigger lineups, really liked Williams and Horford playing together as much as possible, and just in a lot of the substitution patterns he had. Whereas Mazzulla seems to prioritize spacing. So I am intrigued to see what happens when Robert Williams comes back. Do they go back to that Horford and Robert Williams starting lineup, or do they just let Grant Williams continue to start, bring Robert Williams off the bench, and maybe Robert starts when Al Horford is out throughout the year. So I'm curious just to see how much like Horford and Williams play together, or if they really just kind of split up the center minutes between the two.
What is the temperature gauge on Jaylen Brown being a free agent at the end of the year? Like, do Boston fans feel like they're going to take care of him? Do they feel like he wants to go test, what his value is with other teams? Like, what is the feeling there with him?
Yeah, it's a weird situation. I don't think the temperature, I don't think we're that worried about it. I'll say because obviously the team's great and it's going to be tough for him to find a better situation than playing with Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Obviously, you would like to be able to extend him, but because they got him on a relatively good contract previously, it doesn't make sense for him to take an extension.
Sure.
So they basically have to wait for his free agency to come up, and then they're going to offer him every single cent that they can to keep him there. So I'm not. Obviously, it's a concern, but I'm not too worried about it because they're going to offer him everything they can, and it's a great situation, not just for the near future, but the longer term future as well, being next to Tatum. So I'm not too worried about it. I think he'll be in Boston for a long time.
So looking at the numbers, one of the, I don't even know if this is an argument against Boston, but just the idea that the offensive rating is like astronomical, like historical league history. Maybe the shooting can continue, but generally what happens is it kind of comes down a little bit. And are you, the net rating is the thing that is just also amazing to me. You guys have a 9.2 net rating. And the next highest is the Pelicans at 6.9. So the gap between you guys and the Pelicans is like the gap between the Pelicans and Dallas, who is like 6th. Like that's how big the gap is. Things are going perfect the way that you would want them. What are your worries with this team? If you're being like super nitpicky with the team and the start and the conference, obviously Milwaukee's going to be there. What's the thing that you're like the national NBA, the NBA audience thinks that we're the best team, but as someone who watches a little bit more closely, I'm kind of worried about this.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a homer, but it's really just health. It's really just health. Like this team's playing incredible. Like they're moving the ball so well. Last year the offense could be very sluggish at times, and so far this year we haven't seen that. And a lot of it is because they always have Tatum, Brown, or Brogdon are always out there, and usually two of them out there. So because of that, they're able to, they're constantly able to keep things moving, and they have a lot of I'm confident about their health too, because like as an example, like Peyton Pritchard's out of the rotation.
Yeah.
Like completely. He only plays if there's like an injury or foul trouble or something. So he's just there. Like if like Brogdon had a little, Brogdon and Smart have had a couple injuries that kept him out for a game or two, and then they just slide Peyton Pritchard in and keep rolling. They're not really afraid of like, okay, yeah, you're banged up a little bit. Okay, take tonight off. They definitely have it in mind. Like, all right, we got to keep everybody healthy to make that stretch run in the playoffs. And we saw, and also, by blowing these teams out, it takes Tatum's and Brown's minutes down a bit, because part of what happened with Tatum last year is just he carried such a heavy load on those and all those 7-game series and just really wore down.
Did it turn out that he actually had a shoulder injury?
It was. I think he said he had a broken wrist or something. It was like, it wasn't like a displacement, but I guess it was, I don't know, like a hairline or something like that in his wrist. That came out. So I think but yeah, his shoulder was bothering him too. He was just kind of run down. So I think it's mainly just avoiding that again. But man, this offense is incredible. I will say their defense just being kind of mediocre after it was so great last year I guess that too is a bit concerning. But I'm, waiting to see what happens when Robert Williams comes back, because he's obviously going to make a huge impact. And even if their offense falls off a little bit, if they stay as the top offense in the league, and then they can maybe get their defense, closer to top 5 as opposed to, around top 10, then man, they're going to be really hard to beat in the playoffs.
When it, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, the like the key to the Warriors in the mid 2010s, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, like those years is exactly what you said, which is they were able to rest their guys. You know, there were times when Steph Curry was about to check back into the game at his, 7 or 8 minute mark of the fourth quarter. And they're like, nope, we're up 25. You don't need to play. And so instead of having 36 minutes, he had 28 minutes a game. And that is not what they can afford today. He's playing his 38 minutes every game because they're fighting to win these regular season matchups. But heading into Saturday, the NBA regular season is the NBA regular season. I don't think people really even pay that close attention until we get post All-Star break. But do Celtics fans think this is kind of a big game? Is this a little bit of a we want to show them our new tools here to let them know that that they better get back because we're coming.
Yeah, definitely. Always some extra motivation there for a revenge game, for sure. Obviously, it's the regular season, so it's not. And the Celtics and Warriors don't traditionally have like an extensive rivalry the way the Celtics did with the Lakers.
Except for those
Kobe
FU
was
Draymond chants in Boston.
Oh well, yeah, but that's just Boston. They just pick. Boston always picks somebody to hate and just like attacks them relentlessly.
And Draymond's like the easiest to hate.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a low-hanging fruit there.
Yeah, but no, definitely. The game will definitely be a big deal in Boston. Celtics fans definitely want, winning a regular season game after losing the finals isn't that much revenge. But especially if they can get a big win, it'll make everyone feel pretty good and feel confident because definitely have some PTSD after you have a series where Steph just murders you with crazy shots.
Yeah,
right.
I'm convinced you guys blitz us or we win by like 2.
I don't know. Again, I've had too many experiences with Steph now to to say for sure either way. But
so yeah. I will say, if you, there are many. The Warriors are 13-13 right now. They have had. I think Warriors fans would consider there's more negative to the positive this year so far. One of the main negatives, and this is just, long playoff hangover, especially when they win the title, which is energy, like getting up for games. And later in the show, Brian and I will talk about this week's games, but they played Indiana and they were like sleepwalking through the game. They just like no energy, no fire. And so I do think that you're going to get whatever the best is for the Warriors right now without Andrew Wiggins, whatever that the best you guys will get it for sure. They are a good home team, but I kind of feel like the Warriors are even going to be the underdog at home. I don't know what the point spread is today.
Sure, yeah,
but
I'm sure.
With the way that Boston's playing, being a home dog as a post title team, I think they're going to find whatever the inspiration is that they need, and if they don't, then that's just a bigger problem because this should be a game that they get up for. This is a game where Steph, he needs to he wants to show out. He wants to do the night thing again. And Draymond, I'm sure Draymond and Grant Williams will scramble for a loose ball and they'll be tangled and wrestling and there will be, and that's kind of what I hope because that's the kind of stuff that gets the Warriors up. And so, your guys' best hopefully will inspire them to kind of get it together because otherwise, like Brian says, it could be a blitzing. It could be, Tatum and Brown don't even need to play in the fourth quarter kind of game because the Warriors will get into those games as well.
Yeah, they played Phoenix earlier this week, and at one point the score was 94-49, which I had never seen before. So that's an interesting score. But yeah, one of the things that's impressed me the most about the Celtics this year is there's a lot of times during the season where, you have your second night of a back-to-back, someone's hurt, not playing, and they just kind of don't have it and pack it in. And they have a handful of losses, but like last week they played Brooklyn on Sunday, and then they played Toronto on Monday.
Yeah.
And Toronto's a good team. They're a
Yes.
long team. They're athletic. Horford wasn't playing in that game. Blake Griffin's playing 30 minutes that night, and they still just, played hard, played well, took care of business against a tough challenge. And this team's just really focused and motivated to, I think, make a statement after coming up short last year. And honestly, it reminds me of the 2014 Spurs, after they lost that heartbreaker to the Heat the year before. The next year they came out,
So dialed
focused
in.
like a
Yeah.
machine. Yeah. So that's actually what this team reminds me of.
All right, Brian, what do you think? You think the Warriors are going to play up? You think they're going to be ready, or you think we're going to see what we've been seeing?
I'm just gonna say they win in a really close game because
Oh wow,
I mean,
you have some confidence there. There we go.
it's not total confidence, but I feel like I can't say my team's gonna get blitzed. But I don't know. You look at the Warriors' home win percentage and you look at their away win percentage. That's probably the biggest difference in the entire league, where they
So
win
bad.
80% of their home games and win 10% of their away games.
Celtics are 10-3 on the road as well, so it's not so they've been playing just as well away from home as they have at home.
My buddy, who was on this podcast before, born in Boston, raised in Arizona, so he's kind of like a Boston Suns fan. So he went to that game, and the Suns crowd started cheering, "Let's go Celtics!"
Oh
So
my God!
they're starting to take over arenas, man.
Yeah, so I live in Miami, and I was part of that crowd in the playoffs last year where the Celtics blew them out and started chanting, "Let's go Celtics." So I went to the regular season game, like one of the first games of the year here in Miami, where the Celtics played them, and we tried to get the "Let's go Celtics" chant going again, but it got booed down by the Heat. So they were more protective this time around.
I think
their team's worse this year.
I think this is I don't know if I've seen this put together the way that I'm about to put it together though. So in the past year, we've had the Winning Time HBO Max show about the Lakers. We've had Magic Johnson documentary on Apple TV. We've had the Lakers Dynasty documentary, 10 episodes of Lakers on Hulu. And now we have a Shaq documentary out there. It was almost like they were this LeBron era, got the one bubble title win, but it hasn't been fantastic. And so they're kind of like pushing all this Laker history and everything out there. And for you guys to just be like, okay, we're just going to it's total Celtics, BS that I had to grow up with Celtics and Lakers stuff. But I think I don't know. I haven't seen anyone put that together, but it was almost like Celtics are like, man, enough with this Lakers nonsense. Let's just get to the season.
Yeah, I think part of the motivation behind that was they saw how successful The Last Dance was with Jordan.
Absolutely.
And they're like, well, the Lakers are the most popular team. Let's just get as much Lakers content and documentaries out there as we can.
Absolutely. They have been I've been entertained. I thought the Lakers Hulu doc was going to be and it was. There was a lot of rah-rah stuff, a lot of Genie Bus. If you are not a fan of Genie Bus, you probably wouldn't have liked it. But the stories are there, and as an NBA fan growing up when I grew up, I mean that's all it was Lakers Celtics. So I know so much about the Lakers. I know so much more about the Lakers Celtics teams of that time frame than anybody should know who isn't a fan of theirs. But okay, so last thing, and then we'll let you go. And
Right.
Really appreciate you coming in and giving us some knowledge here. Is it championship or bust for you guys? Is that what the mentality is?
Yeah. If they don't win the championship, it's disappointing. For sure. Just making the finals again wouldn't be enough after coming so close last year. I mean, they had a chance to go up 3-1 last year and had the lead and then just kind of blew it, and everything fell apart from there. And so, this team being even better than last year's team, yeah, it really is that championship or bust. But so far so good. Honestly, can't imagine them playing any better than they are right now.
And Celtics Bucks on Christmas Day. That is a game to circle for figuring out sort of where, because I think the Bucks are the best defensive team in the league, but you guys have them in those other statistical categories. And then how unfortunate is this for the Warriors? They play the Celtics on Saturday, then they go to Milwaukee on Tuesday. It's like, man, schedule gods killing us. All right, hey man, thank you very much. Really appreciate you jumping on here, and if we get back into this Boston and Warriors finals, which it's not looking great for us right now, but the West is also not fantastic. So, we'll bring you back and we'll talk about this stuff some more.
All right, sounds good. Looking forward to it, guys.
All right, man.
Again.
Thanks. All right, Bri. So let's talk about some of the stuff that's happened this past week with the team. Man, yesterday was such a gut punch. It was my favorite game of the year until the last 10 seconds of the game, or whatever that was when they lost. But man, the Indiana game, that was so frustrating. Like we were talking with Adam, just the idea of these guys cannot even get up for this game. They're sleepwalking through the game. Indiana's a really solid team, but they should not have been doing whatever they wanted in the way that they did. What was that, Tuesday?
Monday or Tuesday, yeah.
Monday, yeah. But yeah, so just that was in a myriad of disappointments. That was like one of the big ones for me, because I was like, they're home. They need to sort of figure this whole thing out. The vets need to come up and make plays. And, we're seeing Kuminga start to pick his game up. There's different little bits of the rotation, like Moody is getting back into it. But it's the vets were just, Steph was so bad. And he's not going to be good every game, but that's about as bad as you're going to see that guy play.
Yeah, I mean, that defense looked suffocating, almost like, I always reference it, but the way that the Memphis Grizzlies are able to suffocate you on defense, or we're able to do that with the Warriors and just make them uncomfortable. It's almost like the Pacers were just doing that. They had a lot of good pieces out there defensively. You look at Andrew Nembhard, who just absolutely torched us. Aaron Nesmith from the Celtics is kind of like a key defensive guy. Jalen Smith is pretty solid. They have Isaiah Jackson too. Like, they have guys. I feel like I underrated this team just because of how young they were and how long I thought it would take for them to start clicking. And, this might have been just like a once in a season type of game for them. But
Matherin didn't even play that great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's funny is that we literally talked on the PS5 chat when we were playing 2K the week before, and Randy jumped on. He was like, yo, this kid just hit this buzzer beater against the Lakers.
Yeah.
And you were like, who is it? And Randy was like, Andrew Nembhard. And I was like, oh yeah, I know that guy. You're like, how do you know that guy? And look at it. He's the one who torches us. So, yeah. I mean, I think from just like a quick tidbit on that, I almost feel like, because I watched that game late, so I already heard that Andrew popped off. So I was kind of watching him specifically, and he wasn't hard to miss. He was just doing all the right things, but he got like a decent amount of a chunk of his points from three. And I felt like there's like a certain amount of respect you get to be guarded 5 feet behind the 3-point line. And only so many players have it, right? Mm-hmm. You get it throughout your career. You don't get it in a game. If the Warriors really wanted to beat the Pacers, I feel like they had to like put that pride aside and say, okay, we really have to guard this guy named Andrew Nembhard, this rookie, 5 feet out from three. Because Andrew, he was just hitting them. He was hitting those deep threes where I'm just like, who the hell would even think to guard this guy from that far out?
He Stephed Steph is what he did.
Yeah, yeah. And he was just, he saw Jordan Poole right in front of him and he said, cookies. I'm just going to, a guy on the Houston Rockets, like, has been living and dying by just doing what Andrew Nembhard did, because he's just stronger than some of the guys that they put in front of him. So he'll just bully his way to the rim, named Tari Eason. But yeah, I just think Andrew Nembhard was just getting the right switches and just bombing threes when he needed to. And Yeah, that was just. I went to the Pacers game last year too, the one that they always talk about, where Steph blew a missed coverage on a Justin Holiday 3, and they lose it too. The Pacers, I looked, they're 4-0 at Chase. Like the Warriors have yet to beat the Pacers at Chase Center, and I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, and then we had gone out. Was it Saturday? Last Saturday, we grabbed some food and we watched the Houston game. They sleptwalked through that game too. Like, there were some fun moments and they were doing some fun stuff, but they never locked down on defense. They could not rebound to save their life. It's like, you kind of want to just hope that it's just like, oh, they just need to turn it on. There's this switch and they're just kind of waiting and they're just not ready and whatever it is, right? That this is, this happens to all the championship teams, except I will say, Michael Jordan did a great job of keeping his guys not necessarily sharp, but he would carry games if he needed to carry games. And also the NBA was not as good as it is now, which allowed him to do so because he was so much more dominant than the rest of the guys. But I kind of want to see that from Steph and Dre, just like, okay, we get it. Clay is 9 for 26 shooting or whatever he was last night. He doesn't got it. We're getting beat in to offensive rebounds. Like, I'm waiting for Draymond to just go, my goodness, like, why are we not getting these rebounds? And just to take control of the game a little bit more. Or for Steph, and Steph's been doing a good job of this, but not defensively. Steph just to be like, we're just not losing this game. We just can't let this team win. It's just not happening. And they have not been able to do that either, which is kind of frustrating. And we're waiting for like a savior. I don't know who the savior is. It's not Wiseman. It's not Iguodala. If he comes in and he plays in the second half of the season, he's going to be a second rotation guy, maybe not even playing a whole lot. I don't know who the savior is. I don't know what causes them to turn it on, to play better, whatever it is. This last week, I would say I was a little less positive in the team than I was in the previous couple weeks, where we were just like, oh, they just kind of need to get their rotation, the second team. Let's put Draymond here. And they did what I had wanted to do. If you remember a few weeks ago, it was like Draymond and Jordan Poole have to be on the court together. Like, that's how you fix this Jordan Poole thing. And they did that. And it works, at least offensively, it works. But yeah, I don't. What's the fix? What's the thing? Is it a trade? Is it a buyout? Like, what's the move here? What are they going to do?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring that up because last year it was like, okay, we got Clay and Wiseman coming back, even though Wiseman never played. But that's kind of what we were talking about in the beginning of the year, where it's like, okay, we have this saving grace. This guy named Klay Thompson comes back. Yeah. And I was like, this year we don't have that. Forgot about Iguodala. I guess he kind of does come back. But yeah, you're right. He's not that. He's not a saving grace for a team.
If he has to be the savior, then
we're cooked.
Yeah.
First round exit.
I mean, look, they got to get to the 6th spot, right? Like that, or else then you got to play in that other tournament just to get to 7 and 8.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not that like. I still don't want to rule us out as contenders because I feel like a lot of the stuff that needs to be fixed is like internal, and I don't think it's I don't know how well the starters are still doing, because there was that stat on how they're like the best 5-man unit in the NBA. But I mean, I think Steph, that Pacers game, I feel like he's starting to go through, not being able to maintain this absurd statistical output that he's been doing up until this point. So I don't know and I feel like that's a bad time for him to potentially go on this slump because you got Celtics, you got Milwaukee, you got this hard East Coast trip. But I think with my thing is like, it felt like, I've talked about in the beginning of the season where a win for the Warriors this season is obviously a championship. But another thing would be if Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody are able to fill in solid rotation pieces. So you don't need to go get a DiVincenzo and a JaMychal Green. You could rely on those guys and you don't have to spend your money in the offseason for vet min contracts. I almost feel like Kuminga has like solidified that. Like the way I know it's only been like a 2-game stretch. I've been telling you for the last 7 games that I thought he's been doing this just with like smaller minutes, and now he's getting more minutes and still doing it. I feel like Kuminga has just completely bought into the Warriors system, and it's like like the perfect guy for it. And, having those athletic tools and also just playing with the mindset of off ball screens and just, playing through the system and not always trying to get your own bucket. I felt like when I was watching the Utah Jazz game last night, I think Kuminga almost thought like, okay, it's one of those games where I could just like shoot a bunch of shots. And in the beginning, when he went in, he kind of started to do that. And I almost feel like there was a timeout where it's like, no, it's actually not one of those games. And he almost mixed the, I'm going to play like Kuminga, like how I want to, with that Warriors system. And like, that was his best game of his career, right? Like just the things he was doing where he wasn't like, he was creating a shot just by like, having an advantage and just going and just bully balling that guy. And then when people miss layups, he would just have these posterizing putback dunks. So I think that for me, he's an example of, you have the people internally. Can you develop them by actually giving them playing time? Like, can Moses Moody actually get consistent playing time? Because I still think that he's so solid. Like, when he puts up a 3-point shot, I'm like, I think it's going in. I think he's at that point for me, where he hit those 2 clutch threes last night against Utah. He had some good ones. I think, I don't know, I forget if he played in Houston. I think he did. I think he hit some good ones in Houston.
Yeah,
but
he played.
Yeah, okay. I think it's finding him minutes. I don't know how you do it, because I guess he has to jump the Dante DiVincenzo spot, but the kid needs to play. And I think although there might be some bumps and bruises in the beginning of the season with playing Kuminga and Moody a lot of minutes, I think it benefits you more in the long run than by them not playing and not really getting as much minutes and relying on those 7 guys with DiVincenzo and JaMychal and Poole and just riding that all the way through. I think those 2 young guys have the more potential to benefit more if given the opportunity in a long season. That would be my fix. But it probably is a trade.
I think it's trade. You remember, was it last year when they were saying Kuminga and Wiseman was it Siakam? Siakam was unhappy in Toronto or something?
It was, so before Kuminga and Moody got picked, it was just like the talk of the town to say Wiseman and 7 and 14 Wiggins, Wiseman and 7-14 and name your guy. So it was Wiggins, Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody. And it was Ben Simmons, it was Pascal Siakam, it was Bradley Beal. That type of package was what I remember.
Because Siakam would be like the perfect player for the Warriors.
Yes, he would be.
Oh my God.
Would you do that? Would you do Wiggins?
He gets hurt a lot though.
Wiggins, Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody.
I think Siakam would be the Draymond replacement. Like he would be able to soften the blow of whenever Draymond is not good anymore. Because I think he can sort of do a whole lot of things. So Kuminga, he's definitely back. I don't like picking on Anthony Lamb, because I think Anthony Lamb is a kind of a nice story. Like, if the Warriors were better, we'd be singing Anthony Lamb praises, but because they're not, he's kind of a little bit of the target. I think Lamb can play with Steph on the court, and I think that is it. Whenever Steph is not on the court, I don't know if this is like, someone needs to crunch these numbers, but like with 5 seconds left on the shot clock, somehow Anthony Lamb always has the basketball.
I was about to say no, because when we play another 2K reference, when we play 2K, we always call that the grenade. We're giving someone the grenade because we know they're going to miss it. We don't want that on our shot record. And it seems like either they give that to Anthony Lamb every single time, but you're right. It is like 6 to 5 seconds left on the shot clock. So it's almost like he could still make another pass, but he takes it upon himself to be the grenade guy and
we
go
see
take
that
a shot.
One-handed shot, which
it's gross.
He made a few in the season. I don't remember the last time he made more than one. But yeah, so those are the minutes I would like to see Kuminga get. I want to see Kuminga get those Lamb minutes. If for whatever reason Steph is on the court and you want to play Lamb because he's setting the right screen and he's rolling correctly and he's not bringing his own defender to help trap, like all of those things, great. But let's start giving some of those minutes to Kuminga and seeing what he can do in those Lamb minutes. And, DiVincenzo he's just he's a gamer, and he's going to get to loose balls, and he's going to grab steals that Moses Moody's not even going to see, which is part of the deal, right? He's going to get rebounds that even James Wiseman's not going to see. Like, he's a really good rebounder, especially on these outside shots. So that's why DiVincenzo's playing. I wish he could hit the three a little bit better, but I'm fine with him. Also, JaMychal Green, I'm not sure he's playable against a good team. Like, because you would think, okay, playing Boston, they're big, they're strong, they're tall. Oh, let's play JaMychal next to Draymond a little bit. Let's play, maybe JaMychal's a small ball five. He gets killed in these moments, and it's like he'll have the one, put back dunk where it hangs on the rim, and then it's just a bunch of corner threes that he misses. And I'm just like, why is he even in there? Like, you're not using him to his best capacity. And so, like, why don't we try somebody else there? Because he's the guy, again, he's the guy who they're like, yeah, man, like, give it to this guy in the corner. And he's like, I'll take that shot. And I don't know what he's shooting from three right now, but it can't be great.
Pretty.
Yeah.
I think the only way he's playable is if he's able to hit it at like 35 to 37% from three.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been I think he finally hit one against Utah. And I was like, yeah.
And they're not close.
The shot form looks ugly too. Did it always look like that? Like, I feel like I just had such a huge misconception on who he was as a player.
Yeah, me too. Totally.
It's unfortunate.
All right. So what do you think about this this upcoming road trip? So we get the Boston game, which is at home, which is good for them. I'm very happy that game is at home. But then they're going on the road. I think I pulled up the schedule here. They go Tuesday night at Milwaukee, Wednesday night, so back to back, man, against the Pacers. Then Friday against the Sixers, then Sunday against the Raptors, and then Tuesday against the Knicks, Wednesday against the Nets, and they finally come home for Christmas. So they're on the road for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games before coming home for Christmas.
Wow,
that's a rough schedule there.
And do you see how many back-to-backs? Is it two sets of back-to-backs?
So the back-to-back is Bucks Pacers and Nets Knicks Nets.
Damn. Like, you almost gotta make sure Steph, like, they don't sit the vets except for Clay on those back-to-backs. No game's safe right now.
No, and it would be you're at the point where you're like, oh, okay, if they go 2-4, fine. If they go 1-5, fine. No, if you come back, okay, let's say Boston, best case scenario, obviously win, and then you go 2-4. You're only still one game under 500 coming back. You lose the Boston game, you go 2-4. You're 3 games under 500 coming back. So that's tough, man. You got to at least go 500 on this road trip, and I'm just not sure I see the 500.
Yeah, I know. It looks like I don't even know if I can say this is a guaranteed win. Like, even, the Pacers just beat them. They've actually always, at least recently, it seems like they've always had close games with the Knicks.
That's the game where I'm sort of comfortable with.
Yeah, that's the one
that
I
Knicks
would be
games.
too.
That's the one that I would circle. I think they'll beat the Sixers because the Sixers should be a lot better than they are, and they have their own problems. They're 12-12 right now, so they're kind of like the Warriors in that they're a little bit of a disappointment.
They've had injuries though. They got to at least blame it on that.
They've lost 3 in a row. Harden's even back, and they've still lost 3 in a row. So those would be the 2 that I circle and say, okay, I think they could get these 2 games, but the rest of them, like, Brooklyn is picking it up a little bit, right? They're now 14-12.
They're probably bringing Wiseman on this road trip, right?
I don't know. They all just went back to the G League today.
Yeah, I
'cause
thought they
there's some
bring
games
that. I
in
thought
G
they at
League.
least bring Baldwin and Rollins on road trips because of like back to backs.
Yeah,
That'd
maybe.
suck if they just brought Baldwin and Rollins and just left Wiseman. Wiseman and Guy Santos. You guys just go cook.
Oh yeah, Guy. How's Guy playing, by the way? Have you watched any?
I mean, I don't think he gets to do the things we got to see him do.
Ah,
So that's unfortunate because I would love to have him just be the point guard.
yeah.
He's kind of just like a wing.
Yeah, he's the Brazilian Luca.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's good. I have a holiday party to go to on Saturday night, so I won't be able to watch this game until probably late Saturday. But maybe we'll be back. So we'll probably just be back in this time slot next week, and it'll be between the Pacers and the Sixers game. So they'll have played 3 games, and we can sort of digest the 3 games. And they're 3 hard games. There's no easy wins in the next 7 days for sure.
You're the optimistic guy. What's your prediction? 500?
I think the vets know they need to go 3-3. How they get that is a mystery to me because Toronto should be like kryptonite for the Warriors, but they're struggling a little bit. So maybe it's not really. Maybe there's some of it like they're going to play other teams that aren't playing fantastic, like Toronto, Philadelphia, the Nets. They're all kind of in this cluster. And so I think those are winnable games, but they're not games that I would go, we got that one. The only one that I see as we got that is the Knicks for sure.
And how many away games have we won this year? Is it just Houston? Or please tell me we won at least 2. I can't remember.
It is
because was it Houston and then we went and played
2.
the Mavs?
It is 2-11.
What do you remember the team? I can't even remember. I'm trying.
So let's see here. So I have to go back to November.
While you're doing this, I want to do a quick, I know we're about to close it out, but quick rant is that I feel like, we've mentioned it earlier on this podcast, but as we continue throughout the season, it gets even more clear to me, at least me, is that, we were very upset that we couldn't re-sign our guys from the championship team.
They're all hurt.
And they don't play. Like Otto Porter Jr. came back and he didn't look good, and then he got dislocated his elbow or something like that.
Gary Payton I didn't hear that.
It was something like that where he's out again. Gary Payton hasn't played a game. The only guy you would look at and be like, man, I wish we had this guy, is a guy that no one wanted back anyway, and it's a guy that you keep talking about. Damian Lee is like the only one. Like, oh, this guy could help, but everyone else who we let go would not be helping this team right now.
Yeah, D-Lee frustrated me a lot, but now, he's you don't know what you got till it's gone, man.
Yeah.
D-Lee. No, it was Minnesota. That was the other game that they won on the road.
Oh my God, I forgot about that one. We boat raced them.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll be back next week.
3-3? 3-3?
Yeah, 3-3 is my prediction.
Okay. I just really hope that, like, for the sake of, like, I don't know, for potential trades, like Chicago just loses a ton. I don't know what they're at right now, but that's like our we've been hearing. So
why? Who can we cherry pick off of Chicago?
It's tough because I gave my spiel on the Caruso thing. But I mean, if they lose, like, if they don't win a game on this road trip, then yeah, you're really kind of pushing.
But you just don't want to trade Moody.
I just don't want to play. I don't even want to trade any of the young guys. But if there is a point where it's like break the glass, press the emergency button, like, then yeah, I understand why. I'm not gonna. I just think that these guys are gonna be really good.
Yeah. Well, we can hope. We can cross our fingers. Steve Kerr. I'm also waiting for Kerr to sort of figure something out because, enough of this experimenting, man. Like, let's snap your fingers, man. You guys are smart. Put the right guys on the court. Let's figure it out. Okay, so we'll be back next week. So for Bri, I am Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.